Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to another episode of Sree's daily global COVID-19 show. My name is Sree Sreenivasan, and it's my honor to convene this daily conversation around all things to do with COVID-19 every single day. That's right. It's episode 164. We've been here for 164 days, more than 5 months every day. Not missed a day during the pandemic, so that we can bring you as much information, accurate, useful, interesting, occasionally fun information as possible. Today, we have a very special episode for you, the K12 Rollercoaster, the Meet the Parents episode. We are going to meet parents who are dealing with the reopening of schools, and they're going to tell us what they're thinking, how this is all their concerns, their optimism, their pessimism, all of that we're going to learn and hear from in just a few minutes. Our guests are Joe Grits Thompson at Joe Grits, community organizer and hip hop artist. We'll also be joined by Claudine Sullivan, a special education assistant, Samisa Rose, an educational consultant, and Dr. Janet Taylor at Dr. Janet, who's a psychiatrist. And we'll be joined by my co-host and one of my producers, Rose Horowitz. She's at Rose Horowitz 31. She's a journalist and founder of Women to Follow. Please stand by to meet all of these wonderful folks. Please share right now so that your friends and family can join us. Hi, everybody. I'm Sree Sreenivasan. I'm the Marshall Loeb Visiting Professor of Digital Innovation at Stony Brook School of Journalism and the co-founder of Digimentors, a social media, digital, and virtual events consulting company. Our motto: don't cancel your event without talking to us. Don't even plan your virtual event without giving us a call. My email is right here, sree@sree.net. We love geeking out on social media and on virtual events. We'd love to talk to you. We are able to do this show because of all of you. Thank you to everybody who has written in saying this is an uplifting show. This helps you. This is a lifeline. It's a lifeline for me. I have learned so much and benefited so much from all of you being here. So let's tell you a little bit about the show. In the first 150 episodes, we had more than 1 million viewers, 105 million social impressions, 281 guests, 158 of them women, from 57 cities and 16 countries, including the chief scientist of the World Health Organization. We're able to do this because we're in partnership with Scroll.in and Scroll Global. Please check them out. My big thanks to our producers, Rose Horowitz, who you'll meet again in a minute, Rose Horowitz 31, and Vandana Menon. We are always looking for speaker suggestions, theme suggestions, and yes, sponsor suggestions. So please let us know when you have ideas for any of these. And you can find our archives, all of them, on youtube.com/Sreenet. Please go to YouTube and please hit that subscribe button. We're live right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on LinkedIn. So you can tag a friend right now, someone who's a parent out there, or a grandparent, or uncle or aunt, who's worried about their children in their lives, and how they can handle this reopening here in the US and around the world. But first, we have to thank our sponsors. So we're going to start with Muckrack. Muckrack has made it possible for us to offer a free Fundamentals of Social Media course for everyone. Free certification now available. Please sign up. Go to mrac.co/social, mrac.co/social, and you too can sign up. More than 4,000 people have taken this course, and so can you. We also want to thank Nunbelievable, nunbelievable.com. Divinely delicious cookies on a mission. Each handcrafted cookie provides a meal to those in need. One cookie equals one meal. Use the code SREE for 20% off, SREE, at nunbelievable.com. Divinely delicious cookies on a mission. And we're also so grateful for the promotional consideration. Check out all those cool premieres at hotstar.com and hotstar.com/US. and also give us your feedback for any of these ads. And if you would like to participate, if you have something you'd like to promote, get in touch. We have very reasonable rates as we reach the world. All right, are you ready to talk about schools reopening? Have you tagged some friends or family who would benefit from this conversation? Then you are ready for us. So we want to remind you what we're doing tonight. We are talking to 4 parents who are going to be with us and are going to help us navigate this roller coaster, as we're calling it, the K-12 Rollercoaster. You're going to meet Joe Grits Thompson, Claudine Sullivan, Samisa Rose, and Dr. Janet Taylor. I'm going to bring all of them onto the screen right now. So let's, but first, let me say hi to Rose, our co-host and my producer with Vandana. Hi, Rose. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Excited to see all these parents. Very happy that they're here. And we're going to have psychiatrist in Florida, Dr. Janet Taylor.
Yeah,
join us.
Yeah, and so cool to have all of these people on a Friday night to talk to us. And we're very grateful to everyone who is able to join us. We want as many people to see this as possible because such important conversation. Rose, how did you structure this conversation? Why did you think that we needed to talk to parents at this moment?
I think because parents are just being battered with, there's so much uncertainty about what's going to happen in the school year. And it really depends on what if you're in a local, what your local superintendent is doing or what the city's Board of Ed decides. And, so where you live is where where you're going to go, either you're going to go to school or you're going to be home or you're going to be, hybrid, meaning like what they're doing is some schools are doing 1 week you go to class and 1 week another group goes to class. Or I just heard of I think maybe Westport, I heard maybe some kids go to high school in the morning and then they go in the afternoon and they switch around the next day. So it's really confusing. And we have heard a lot from teachers, I think, who are worried about the situation with reason. But parents are, don't really want to speak out so much publicly. Sometimes, they'd rather go under the grid and not speak out publicly. So I'm really happy that we have these parents talking about what's going to happen in their schools and with their children.
All right, so let's get started. I'm just going to bring everybody on stage behind this card. They're all here, and we're very grateful to them. So let's put them all on screen and say a big hello and a big thank you. I see Joe. I see Claudine. Hi, Joe. Hi, Claudine. Hi, hi, Rose. Hi, Samaris, Rose, and Rose. So we have 2 Roses here. That's awesome. So first thing I always ask everyone is, how are you doing? How's your family through the pandemic? And let's start with Samaris, and then we'll go around. Then we'll chat with Dr. Janet for a few minutes, and then we'll bring the parents back on. So Samaris, let's start with you. How are you doing?
Hi. So I'm doing well. Just taking it one day at a time. And just looking forward to see how this plan for kids going back into our schools is going to roll out.
Yeah, and tell us where you are, and if you don't mind, like what grades the kids are in, and how many you have, all of that.
Yeah, of course. So I'm in Bridgeport, Connecticut. I'm a mother of 5 boys, and I currently have 3 still in the school system. 117 in the 11th grade and goes to our traditional school system here, our district school. And then I have a 14-year-old that goes to a charter school, and this is his 9th grade year. And I have a 13-year-old who goes to a therapeutic school here in Bridgeport as well.
Wow, 5 boys. Maybe we should do a show just on that, what it's like to have 5 boys. And my grandmother had 4 boys, and she would never stop talking about the adventure. So I can't imagine with 5. Thank you for being here tonight. Let's go to Claudine. Claudine, tell us your story and how you are and how is your family?
Hi, I am from Glastonbury, Connecticut. I have 3 boys. 1 in the Connecticut State College system, and then I have a sophomore in high school and an 8th grader. So kind of dealing with a lot of different situations because each of their levels is kind of doing something a little bit different. And I also work in the Glastonbury Public Schools at the elementary level. So that's, again, different than what my kids are doing and kind of brings a different dynamic to my schedule for the fall.
I can't imagine how interesting that must be too. Different, interesting, confusing, different words for that.
Yeah.
To worry about your kids and about yourself as you're going through this. Have you decided what is happening with your children, especially since you have in both college and in high school?
Right. We had surveys sent out for my 8th grader and my sophomore in high school, and we had to commit to what we decided we wanted to do, whether we were going to homeschool for the duration of the time that we are, quarantined, or if we were going to send them back. And my husband and I decided that we would send them back. Our district has decided to do a hybrid model for the level of kids, 6 through 12. And so my kids will be going to school 2 days a week and e-learning 3 days a week. And then my college son, he had an option of doing some sort of hybrid situation at Central Connecticut, and he chose to live at home and do all online. So he will be home for his first semester anyway, until we know if anything changes. And then as an educator, I am working in an elementary school, which they have decided that our K through 6 children will go, or K through 5 rather, will go 5 days a week.
Okay, got it. I see Joe is here as well. So let me ask Joe, how are you, Joe? Thank you for being here. Tell us how you are and how's your family managing through the pandemic?
I'm doing okay. My family is doing well as well. Nobody's everybody's in good health. As far as the school situation, I have a 13-year-old son going to the 8th grade this school session, and my daughter's 3 years old, and she's going to daycare kindergarten school. For her, it's her first. She been homeschooled, since birth. Her mom been homeschooling her, so it's our first time sending her off. But my son been in the system, his whole life, and he wants to go back. He has his reasons, and I also have my reasons that I would like for him to go back. Even during this pandemic.
Oh, look who's there! Somebody behind you. Can we say hello?
Yeah, that's my daughter.
Do you mind? Yeah, do you mind just having her come say hi?
I don't think she's it. Boo! Hi to the people.
Hi. Hi. Very nice to meet you. That is awesome that she's with us. So, Joe, what do you do? You're an activist and a hip hop artist.
Yeah. I've been doing activism for almost 10 years now. Throughout Fairfield County. I was born in Norwalk, so I started over that way. But I've been a resident of Bridgeport for 20 years now. So I mainly just go from Stanford all the way up to Bridgeport and Stratford areas. I do a lot of activism, as well as my music career that I take very serious, and I have my music on all high platforms as far as Apple Music and things like that.
Nice. And you're Joe Grits on is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Okay. So we'll all check that out and check out your music as well. So here's because we want to make sure we get to talk to all of you. We're going to talk to Dr. Janet for a few minutes, and we're going to bring the parents back if that's okay. So folks can just relax and listen in as we talk to Dr. Janet Taylor. Thanks, Joe. We'll see you in a few minutes. And thank you, Samaris. And thank you, Claudine. So Dr. Janet, tell us how you are and how's your family through all this?
Sure. So I'm in Sarasota, Florida. I lived in New York for almost 25 years. I've been in Florida for almost 3 years. I have 4 daughters, 4 girls who are all out of college, but my oldest daughter just moved here 2 weeks ago. So my 2 grandchildren are here. My oldest grandson, Leo, we're working and facing with him going to school. Florida schools opened on Monday. COVID is pretty high, pretty rampant here. Not a lot of leadership from the state level. So there's a lot of confusion with the parents. And my daughter has opted to keep him out of school for the first week, maybe 2, just to see what happens. So I certainly can empathize firsthand with what parents are going through, trying to manage. I mean, school is stressful enough as it is, and a roller coaster anyway, for many reasons. And now it just seems so unfair to really have to make the decision, because our children need to be in school, but to make the decision between, are we risking their health? Are we risking our health or grandparents' health when they come home? Teachers' health, so many decisions without enough information. And what we know about the brain is, when our brain feels uncertain or things feel out of control, and we don't have the right information, our brain kind of takes us on a roller coaster, hijacks us, and it goes to the worst case scenario. So we end up making up situations, and it's really anxiety provoking. So my heart goes out to all these parents and caregivers who are having to make real decisions about what to do about their children in school.
And that is so difficult for so many of us. I know Rose has some questions for you. Before we do that, we'll just see who's watching from where. Jonathan Borstein is watching from Union Square in New York. Jonathan's watched 164 straight episodes, and I know you're a former New Yorker. Rahajan is watching from Long Island. My mom is watching from Kerala in India. Hi, Amma, love you. Sorry we're not together. And have you been to India, Doc?
Never.
Okay.
But watching the premiere and those blockbusters certainly makes me want to go there. I really do.
We'd love to make that happen. I know there'll be people who'd love to have you. Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar is here, and she's saying open, hybrid, closed, virtual, and that's just these 2 weeks worth of info. And Dr. Sujana, we'll talk about it in a little bit, because she is co-host of an awesome show called She's on Call that runs every Sunday from 11 to noon Eastern on Facebook. Kishan is tagging his friends. Kishan's watching from DC. Hello. Maureen's from New Jersey. Rajan is tagging his friends, and Stefan's watching. And Stefan says, looking forward to this discussion with these parents, including my dear friend, Dr. Janet Elizabeth Taylor, who has raised 4 amazing daughters. We just decided to keep our 8th grader home and do virtual learning. That's not easy, of course, for anyone to deal with, and is so hard for folks. I'll just tell everyone that our friend Stefan has an incredible show that he does every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern on Facebook and on Twitter and on YouTube. Please check out the Spin It Social Hour. And his guest this week is Jennifer McClure, a photographer who you can find at J McClure Photo, the Spin It Social Hour, talking photography and social media. And I know he's a friend of yours, so that's a nice connection. And he's watching from New Jersey. What do you tell a parent like that whose 8-year-old is so unhappy to not be in school? The jokes always used to be is that kids are trying to stay home from school, and now we're in this odd position where we're trying to keep the kids home, and the kids want to go to school.
Yeah, I mean, it's really difficult because they're kids. We know socialization is so important, but you tell them the truth that there is this virus that we're trying to manage, and until we have either a vaccine or a definitive treatment for their safety, parents are trying to figure out the school, teachers, and administrators. So when we get information as parents, we need to share that with our children. And as an 8-year-old, you can ask them what they know, what their fears are, how they're feeling, and find hopefully other ways that they can socialize and connect with their friends, but just help them understand, again, ways that you keep them safe in your household. Talk about social distancing, wearing a mask, the importance in washing your hands, and that we will get through this. But right now, everybody's upset, and share how you feel with them so they don't feel alone. But certainly for so many kids, I saw a picture of kids in a cafeteria and they were socially distant. They looked like maybe they were 6 or 7 and they were eating lunch and they looked miserable. And it's heartbreaking, but that's just the way it has to be right now.
All right, Rose, I know you have a couple of questions for the doctor.
Okay. So you've outlined a little bit what parents can do so you're saying that parents, are there 3 things you would tell parents, and of course we know everyone in the country is different depending on where they live, but 3 things that parents should remember when they're trying to communicate to their kids about what they want, their decisions.
Sure. Well, I mean, certainly you want to communicate with your kids in an age appropriate way and don't assume that they know anything. So you can ask them what they know and do a kind of COVID check-in at the end of the day, just see how their day was, how it's going, and talk to them about how you're feeling so they don't feel alone. And then lastly, I think as parents, parents are stressed about what's going to happen with their job, paying their mortgage, their rent. Parents are not socializing either. So as parents, I think it's really important that we manage our own stress and anxiety and don't take it out on our children so they don't feel more upset, and just find ways to communicate in a really healthy way to let them know that they're safe at home, what to look out for if they do feel sick, how they can get tested. And again, keep them focused on education because it is so critical. And so many hours have been lost of our kids, not turning in work, and parents tired of arguing with their kids about it. High schoolers are just like, forget it. And to remember, there are 17 million families that don't have consistent internet access. So even kids and families that want to do their work are having trouble connecting. So it's really a mess, but it will get resolved, and just focus on what you know, and, just know that you'll get through it together.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. For parents who are who don't want to communicate their anxiety to their kids, what should they be doing? What are 3 things they can do to to help keep their sanity as they muddle through this?
Yeah, so it's important to focus on healthy coping skills, and that means going for walks. You can still go for walks, wear a mask, so be socially distant, especially if you're in places where the virus is still pretty high. To manage your sleep, now is the time to get healthy sleep, healthy eating, to talk to your adult friends about how you're feeling. And if you have to tell your kids, listen, like mommy or daddy, we're upset too, that's okay. But because it helps our kids understand how to manage conflict, we don't have to put on a rosy face all the time. And it's important to teach your kids healthy skills, which include understanding how you feel, which means where you feel it in the body and what your thoughts are, but then also when things are good. And also because, especially if your kids are home and not in a structured situation, it's okay maybe if they work for 15 minutes, take a break for 5 and go back, as long as they finish their work. So you can be a little flexible as long as they get their work done.
That's great. And I guess a big motto is to model the behavior that you want your kids to take in.
Well, our kids take in everything we're feeling anyway. With social media, they're sponges. And so it's not do as I say, not as I do. Like, tell them how you're feeling, treat them with support, and understand that they need hugs too, as so do we. So I think if you have conflict within your relationship, your adult relationship, work it out, figure it out so that your kids do not feel they're responsible for that. And we know that because kids have not been in school, reports about child abuse, reports about domestic violence have been down because frequently it's teachers who notice that. So hopefully if you're in a healthy, happy household, that's great. If you know friends or family or hear things and feel like kids may need some extra eyes to make sure they're okay, don't hesitate to intervene and just knock on a door, say, how can I help? Is everything okay? Because, there are a lot of kids who, because they're not in school, certainly may be at risk, and we don't want to miss those.
Very important. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll keep going. Okay.
Why don't we bring in our parents so they can join us and participate? So let's bring them all in. We have Samaris. Hi, Samaris. And we have Joe, and we have Claudine. So let's ask each of them first what they heard from Dr. Janet. What is their reaction? And then we'll talk to them some more. So Claudine, let's start with you.
I definitely was very interested in how we keep that, like the sanity of the kids, basically, how to keep them from getting overwhelmed and feeling stressed out about all this. I've been lucky. My boys, they're talkers. They talk to me. They don't seem to hold too much back. So I've been very lucky that they've been very open with how they're feeling. I know they struggle with not seeing their friends. I know that's been very difficult over the last several months. My kids are very social kids, and I feel badly for them. I have allowed them to do certain things with friends to an extent where I know that they were safe in doing it. Just so that it's not, this 5-6 months at a time without seeing anybody but me at home. And I think that's helped a little bit. Social media has helped a little bit with them to be able to at least stay in touch with their friends. But I know they are all looking forward to getting back to school and seeing their buddies.
Joe, what about you?
I agree. I feel, just interacting with my son that he's social as well. So I feel like, it plays a role in the learning, being at home. Sometimes it could wear and tear down on a child, that feel like they're in like the army or the military. Like it's just that time of the day and that's it. There's no, I guess you could quote unquote say like fun time, recess, just interacting, being social with other students. And and as well as the curriculum and the education is somewhat different than when I was like in middle school. Some things like they're learning it a different way, or to be specific, even like certain math that he does, like I don't even know it or I don't remember it. So, I'm not no kind of educator as far as, with school or nothing like that. So, I want him to have somebody who's proper for that job title. I'm not a teacher as far as, with the education he's learning. So, things like that. And then as well as when I was listening in, even, outside of my home, me knowing other homes, as far as she was saying, as far as like domestic violence, child abuse, things like that. Some kids, sad to say, that school is their safe haven or just a place to get away from even whatever is going on between their parents or other activities in their little household or their community. So it brings them into like another world. And like I said, I live in Bridgeport, so I know for a fact, it's for some families, it's a safe haven. It's a place where kids, release themselves, and then they're around maybe even more positive things that's going to keep them on the right track. You keep a child in an abusive home and he's not getting the proper education, he'll grow into whatever he's around amongst. So
that's so important. Let's go to Samaris. Your thoughts, Samaris?
Yeah, so I definitely agree when she was saying that let's make sure that we communicate with our children and be straightforward with them and tell them what's going on. The problem we have is here in Bridgeport already, we have a lot of kids that unfortunately don't listen to their parents. So then you have that look of, okay, so you don't want me to do this and you don't think I should go to school and you don't think it's safe, but why do you have to go to work? Or why is everybody else out, right? My friends are out, so why can't I go? So we battle with a lot of different things here, but I also think here in our urban communities in Connecticut, our kids already struggle a lot with essential things that they needed on a day-to-day basis, for as hand soap or tissue. We did GoFundMe to get paper into classrooms. So I don't understand how they think they can open back up the schools and allow our kids to come in and gonna have everything that they need on a day-to-day basis to make sure that they're sanitizing and cleaning properly. Yeah. But then, for me, I have one kid that I'm not sending back to school. And then I have one that I am sending back because he struggled with distant learning. And it's his 9th grade year and I don't want to start him off on the wrong foot. So he's going in for 2 days and then he'll be home for 3 days, but it's all day online instructional time. And, I hear many say, oh, well, they're playing the game all day. Well, that's something different. We know that's something that interests them. That's something that they look forward to doing with their friends. But when it comes to education, again, here in our urban communities, our kids are not interested because they don't make it interesting for them. So it's a different battle with them being on a laptop all day to learn than being on a laptop all day to have somewhat of a social life and communicate with their friends. So we just got to really look at the bigger picture, right? And at the end of the day, yes, our kids need to be educated, but that's another struggle we have here in Bridgeport, where our kids are stuck in failing schools, right? But we cannot replace a life. And that's what I keep thinking about. We can't replace a life. And for that parent who don't make arrangements ahead of time and know her child is sick, and she's like, okay, I don't have nothing to do. He or she don't have a backup plan. So they send that child to school anyway. And now everyone else around that child can get sick. I think we just need to plan ahead about that. That way, if we tell parents now, like, we're not going back into the schools, they can start adjusting their schedules or doing whatever it is that they need to do to make sure that they're there with their kids and their kids are taken care of in a safe way.
Thank you so much for that. It's these are such important issues that I think we're all learning about and trying to understand. I'm going to ask Dr. Taylor to respond to these and to respond to these comments and to respond to these parents. So let's go to Dr. Janet and hear her thoughts.
Yeah, no, I think Samira's hit the nail on the head in the terms of, for some of our kids, even pre-COVID, they were in schools that were failing them and not really addressing their own needs. And that's not necessarily a fault of the teachers, but the system that we've set up in the sense of just the inequities that occur in public schools in neighborhoods that need them the most, whether it's rural or urban. And we're expecting schools to say it's going to be ventilation, or, they don't have hot water, they don't have PPE for the students and the teachers, don't have thermometers. A lot of schools have police officers that don't have nurses, don't have guidance counselors. So I think we're really showing how we have failed and showing the intersectionality of what happens when there's inequity in school and access and resources. And as she said, we still have to educate our children. And so I think it's really about supporting each other, whether it's doing a GoFundMe, which is just a shame, given all the tax dollars that we pay, but still necessary, and educating people. And, as Joe said too, it's so important that our children have stable households, and the ones that don't need to be in school even more for food, for support, for guidance counseling. So, schools are more than just for education. For many kids, it's the only way out. And then I'm blanking on, is it Christine? Claudine, sorry. Claudine, I'm happy to hear that Claudine has a great relationship with her children, because communication is so important. And the fact that, she is a little flexible in noticing what her sons need. And I think, in many cases, our kids do need to be with their friends in safe ways, because it's been a long time. And so we're not going to be in forever. And when they lift everything, how's it going to be? So I think incrementally, using common sense, there are ways for our kids to still interact with their friends, interact with, parents and adults in ways that do not certainly increase the likelihood of transmission. So it's up to us as parents to create those rules within our household, but also to recognize that this is going to be like this, I think, for the next year. And, every time there's a new case that's positive, it's like you're starting all over again. But I think parents have to have their own rules and make their own decisions about what works for them, and then try to integrate that with what's happening at the school. But at the end of the day, I think, again, from a state perspective, from the national perspective, the leadership has failed us. They're not leading with science, and they're putting the responsibility on parents, and it's not fair.
And it really is not fair. Let's look at some of the comments coming in. Carla Baranakis is watching and tweeting from New Jersey. Hi, Carla. Thank you for being here. Carl McCluster is here, former guest on this show, the Reverend Carl McCluster. I know that Rose reached out to him to get us contacts, and he did, as he always does. Grateful for the show. Thank you so much. Matthew is watching. Matthew McCluster says, this is dope. I think that is a great compliment. And Sudha is watching from Hastings on Hudson. Hi, Sudha. Thank you for being with us. Carl says, people don't plan to fail. Too often, they fail to plan. That seems to be happening in too many school systems. So let's talk a little bit to Claudine, who is in the school system herself. What is your response to that? And what can the school system do to help people so that they don't fail, so that they can plan?
I have to be honest, I am very spoiled and very lucky with where I work and where my kids are able to go to school. Our administration has been incredible. I think, first of all, I got to say, I would not want to be in any one of their shoes. I think this is an incredibly difficult time for them. The amount of work and the number of hours that they have put in since mid-March when we first went into lockdown, it's incredible what they have done and how much time they have spent trying to make sure that our students are taken care of. You know, our e-learning in the spring was a little difficult. I think, like everybody, we were kind of thrown into it, and I think it was just tough for everyone. It was tough on the teachers to all of a sudden go from seeing their students every day to having to do everything online. You know, when we started this whole thing, we were told it was going to be 2 weeks, and we planned for 2 weeks. And at the end of the 2 weeks, all of a sudden, it was, you know, for another 4 weeks and another couple of more weeks. And before we knew it, it was the end of the school year. I do think going into the fall, if we end up all back home, you know, full time again, or however this all plays out, I do think we're in much better shape. Our teachers, our administrators the communication's been great. They really are looking out for every single child. They're trying to take everybody into consideration. They are giving us plenty of PD, you know, the professional development to teach us all the different ways that we can access our kids this year on the days that they're remote learning. I think they've changed their style of remote learning for the fall compared to what we did in the spring. And I think that's going to be a huge benefit to our kids. A lot more interactive type of teaching as opposed to assigning things and, you know, you have from 9 to 3 to get it done, and then, you know, we'll communicate at the end of the day. I think it's going to be a lot more maybe Zoom type calls and things where the kids will maybe working from home, but will be communicating with their teachers live. And I think that will be, you know, that will serve them so well this fall. So yeah, I mean, I have to say we are very lucky where we are, and things have been pretty good so far.
I know Rose has some questions to ask, but I do want to say that when Dr. Janet used the term intersectionality, we talk about it every night on the show because everything is connected, but also we talk to Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, the Columbia professor who coined that term 30 years ago. And I asked her, what can we do to be allies of the Black community? And she said, say their names. So every day, every single day on this show, we close by saying some of their names because we can't say all of their names. Sorry, Doctor, you were saying?
Oh no, that's awesome. I'm Claudine. I'm glad you're so optimistic. I'm not quite as optimistic as you. If there's a rebound, and I think people need to plan for the fact that things may change and that things may be going okay in cases, and they may have to go back home. And I think just to anticipate the uncertainty so that people don't get depressed or overwhelmed and still follow whatever got them there, which is finding out information, knowing it's going to be better. But I think it remains to be seen. But I'm glad your school system has your confidence.
Yeah. And that's also Connecticut, which is so much, so much disparity, right? It's not equal in the state. For those of us outside of it, think of it as a small place which is very uniform, and it isn't. It's a complicated place like America. Go ahead, Rose. I know you have some questions.
Well, I just want to ask some of the parents, how are you looking at this for different kids? Because I think in Samara's case, she wants one child to be at school and one child to be home. And I think, I think in Joe's case, he has a different view of it. So we'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Yeah. So for me, every kid is different, right? Every kid has a different personality, and what works for one might not work for the other. I think that one of the things that I would probably like to see more of, we have like 2 organizations in Bridgeport who have set their classrooms up so that they have nonprofit organizations, and they have made classrooms and set them up so that parents who have to work and don't have anyone to watch their kids and worried about if they can safely return back to school in full capacity or not, they have kids coming there where they constantly have a janitor wiping things down, and there'd be social distancing and all of those things, and the classroom would be much smaller. I think that for parents like that, I would like to see more of that here, because we just have some parents who just don't have no support and don't have a choice but to send their kids back to school, right? And those same parents, if their kid gets a little cough, you know, in their mind, they're like, okay, it's just a little cough, it might be okay. And then they send them to school, and it wasn't the best decision. So I think when they make decisions, they got to think about the fact that we got a lot of different personalities in Bridgeport, and we have parents who are single parents. So our kids are in single family homes, and they're working around the clock just to provide, right? But now, what happens if they don't want to send their kid back to school? But then also, what happens if they do want to send their kid back to school? I just don't think they're looking at the greater picture.
So let's go to Joe and ask him that question.
When it come to what she was saying, I agree with that part. I definitely agree with that part. I was, my family's fortunate to have, two parents in the home. So I'm able to, go out and, earn income and do those things. And now their mother is going to look for employment now, since my daughter will be going to school. But, Samaris is correct. Many families don't have that. So, it's a thin line with, the child going to school so that the mother could go back to work or whatever the case may be. So, I think that's definitely things like that, stuff for them to look into. And I'm not getting all the memos and emails, but I think they need to detail more on, like what's going to be provided and how this school year is going to go about. I know I've recently got one that I didn't read, thoroughly through, but and I believe every school seems like they're doing something like different. So I'm not sure if that's the case. I'm not sure, but it seems like every school, or certain schools in Bridgeport is going with their own like guidelines and stuff like that. And I see that as a issue, definitely a problem if you have two children that's of age that's going to two different schools and whatever the hours, or 2 days remote learning on another day and stuff like that. So I definitely think that I'm not sure how much further they're going to push back. I know they pushed it back maybe like a couple days or a week, but I think they definitely need to like get everything down, like set, so all the parents like understand what's going on and they could better prepare. And I think a lot of parents that I speak to, I wouldn't say was blindsided, but many of them are not prepared, to send their child off next week or in 2 weeks. Okay, Rose?
Joe, I think you talked about that you are going to send. Your decision is to send your son back. So why are you making that decision in his case?
Like I said, with him, certain things that he's into, or just learning. He was more comfortable with the teacher. Breaking certain things down to him. The morning hours, I'm usually off out and about. So majority until I came home like later on that day, I could help him with certain things he would ask me. But the things that him and his mother used to go back and forth on, it just wasn't it wasn't getting to him. So so it was his decision, that he wants to go back, and then also mine to know that before COVID, before Corona, he definitely was a well-rounded student, good grades and everything. And I just feel like between me and his mother, just a difficulty in helping them, and what I seen with the teachers helping them made me say, I think I would rather him, I don't want him to fall behind. I don't want next year or in 2 years when everything's cleared up and like he's like kind of struggling, he's fell behind because he's got, Joe as the teacher, and I just feel like I'm not so qualified for certain things.
Thank you.
Can I say, Joe, I applaud your courage, and to say that and honesty, because, I think that's important that parents do recognize most of us are not teachers. And for some kids who are getting special help, with remote, they're not doing it. So some of them need to be in school so they can get that extra help. So I applaud you for being so honest about that, because that's important.
Yeah.
I think, can somebody speak to, what they're seeing in terms of the problems they've seen when their kids were remote in the spring, and do they see that even if they will be remote part of the time, has the school system assured you that this year is going to be different, and how?
I know as far as what I hope so. I mean, I remember earlier this year. I mean, I have Wi-Fi and everything, but still sometimes he submitted things and it didn't go through, or it always was like trouble even with that. We have perfect Wi-Fi at home, but it's just stuff like that will be difficult, and then we'll reach out to the teacher, and then it'll take 3 or 4 days as far as whatever need to be submitted. Sometimes they even let it go and just said, oh, that's fine, he'll just get on to the next subject or whatever. So things like that, even things like that was like a concern for me, and I don't want to say like the teacher or the school didn't care, but it, certain things, it just felt like they just was like pushing it over. It seemed like everybody was just gonna pass, because of the circumstances. And even that, I don't like, if he's struggling with something, I want him, if I can't help him, I want the school to help him. And I don't want them to just pass him to the next grade because we're going through a pandemic. I want him to do, learn the right way. And if he has to go to summer school, then he'll go to summer school. Like I definitely seen the way education helped me with my life, and then I also seen the way not being educated made a struggle for his mother's upbringing at her when she was younger. So I take this school thing serious. So that's why it's like, if he could go to through the summer, if I could take him to the basketball court outside, and it's like I spoke to Rose, I think yesterday, and it's hundreds of kids about to play. I coach his basketball team, and we're around a bunch of kids. Some got masks on, some don't, and we're risking it. Then I feel like he could get to the school as well.
Joe, I do want to ask you about that photograph behind you. Several people have written in about the picture on the wall. Can you just talk about that for a minute?
Oh, so that's the picture of his mother, and before my daughter was born. So it's like
oh, that's fabulous. 1 second. I know we're gonna get a screen grab of that. So that is beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, and it's also I'll take it down. On my wall I have all my album covers.
Show us, please. Show us.
I also made it it's one of my albums. It's called Love and Hip Hop. So if you
nice. Oh, and it made that cover. Wow.
Yeah.
Joe Grits, the General, Love and Hip Hop in Connecticut. And we met your daughter who was in that tummy, right?
Yeah. And I'm gonna show you one more. So I had to have the follow-up, and then now she's like in my arm.
Oh, part 2. I love that. That is awesome. Can you hold it back a little bit, a little further away? Yeah. There you go. Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, and I whenever guys check me out, a lot of my music speaks on my children and my upbringing, and they're in like all my music videos and stuff like that.
All right. So everyone look for Joe Grits with a $sign at the end and find him. Rose, we have time for a couple more questions, and then we're going to let these folks get back their Friday nights.
Okay. Can you talk about maybe Janet can talk about this and how do what are there some research among you? I know Samara is an advocate and doing stuff in the community, and I think Joe, who had a tough time when he was younger, is turning things around. And I'd love to hear what words of inspiration you have for how you've done this and how you're trying to help your community during this time.
Let's go to Samara.
Yeah, so during this time, I really tried to talk to parents, want to see how they're really feeling about things, and then being able to communicate that to those that are making decisions, but also like just giving them helpful tools. Like today, I was getting my hair done, and the mom was saying to me, I don't know what to do. I don't want to send my kid back to school, because here we have it where they had trouble with our classrooms are like maybe 30 in a class to one teacher. So they already struggle with maintaining the kids at that point. So she said, I don't know what to do. So I recommended her to the nonprofit organization that is going to open up just for parents just like her. She was like, that's exactly what I need. And she was grateful for that. But then we have many parents that is just, they don't really know what to do. And the communication, as Joe said, is not clear. It seems like I had my high school son's school call, and they said they was coming back to school full capacity, and they was welcoming all the children. But then when I talked to somebody on the Board of Ed, they said, no, they're going to do the hybrid program. And I'm just like, you know what? For all of this, they're already confused. I'm going to keep my kids. I keep all of my kids home and just send the one that I know his school is confident. The way they explain things to us, they're confident what happened. So I really try to loop back with parents and try to refer them to different organizations that can possibly help them, but also telling them, like, make sure you have the proper things that you need. You need to put hand sanitizer in your kid's bag, or the Lysol. I have personal Lysol that I give all my kids, and the hand sanitizer, and I remind them to make sure that they're doing all the things necessary to keep themselves safe.
Thank you. It sounds like you're really a great resource and a help to your community. And I know there's a website for your maybe Vandana can find it for us.
Yeah, well,
tell us. Is it on?
Found out Joe's music is here at songwhip.com/Joe Grit.
Yes.
And hold on, you're muted, Joe.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say somebody commented the link.
Yeah, and they also said what a great photo, beautiful. So you're getting some props. The same question that we've been talking about. I want to ask Claudine, but before that, let's look at some comments. Carl McCluster, Reverend McCluster, who's been a guest on the show. She said, we all vote to move to Claudine School District because in Connecticut, they're short 93,000 Chromebooks in March. And in June, they were still short 43,000 Chromebooks. And even still, too many are still not delivered. And Sudha says, few teachers are immunosuppressive and in high-risk categories do not want to take the risk to go back to school, and they should be given work for remote teaching. They cannot be forced to come to school. Claudine, what is the situation with teachers in your school in terms of forcing, non-forcing, etc.?
We do have some teachers that are choosing to work remotely. A friend of mine, for example, she and her husband are both immunocompromised, and she is going to be working remote. So that has been given as an option for them. We were talking earlier about daycare situations and things like that. And in my town, our district has opened up daycare facilities for our teachers, so that if teachers who work in my town but have kids that go to or if they live in other towns, they're able to come with their mom and do daycare at our schools. And then also we opened it up to the town in general. and any other, kids that are younger, parents have to go to work and they don't know what to do with their kids on those off days or whatever the situation is. We're, doing everything we can to try to give them some sort of option for not impacting the home life as much as possible and allowing the parents to go to work and knowing that their kids have a safe place to be during the day. As I said, we are blessed where we are, and I don't take that for granted at all. We are very lucky to be in a situation where we can look out for our kids the way we do. And again, I give a lot of credit to our administration. They've really worked very hard to try to consider every possible scenario and take care of our town as best they can.
So just, we want to look at this question here for Dr. Taylor. Any thoughts on how the kids feel about this new normal? In India, for example, there's a proposal to just erase 2020 from the record books.
Oh, they're doing that in Kenya.
I think that's in India. That's probably here too. Like to do that.
Kenya, they're just saying, okay, this year didn't, we're not, you're not going to be behind. You're not going to, you're just going to start where you were at the end of the spring.
So the issues, as we heard also from Joe, right? Joe says, I want my child held to the correct standard so that this is not like everybody passes. So that's that tension there. So Dr. Janet, please go ahead, and everyone, please follow her. She's at Dr. Janet on the socials, including Twitter.
No, and to Samaras, I want to say thank you for being a light and an inspiration to people you brought in Bridgeport, because that's important. But the reality, this is not normal. And so I think this is just a new way that it is. But parents, we have to educate ourselves on CDC guidelines. If we don't understand that, find someone who can explain that to us. We have to stay in touch with our school boards and our schools and find out what's going on. And kids are anxious right now. And so we need to pay attention to that. But at the same time, they have to get their work done. They have to study. And so this is not a time we can give our kids a break. We have to focus on education, because for most of our kids, education is the only way, and they have to get a high school diploma. They have to stay in school. They have to stay engaged.
Can I ask you, Dr. Taylor, I think you said in Florida, in one area near where you live, that maybe 20 or 30% of the high school seniors didn't graduate because they just wouldn't go remote.
It's not just Florida. You know what happened in high-risk schools where parents might have to leave in some of the schools, they decided to shut down suddenly. They didn't have contact information. So you had seniors who were on the brink about graduating, but who were lost to the system. And so we already have a high enough dropout rate, especially for Black and brown kids. That's gotten even worse. We can't afford for that to continue. So that's why parents have to connect. They can't sit back and wait. If you've never been to a PTA meeting, I don't care. Get yourself to the school, call them, call the school board. If you don't understand, find somebody like Samaras or Joe or Claudine who can explain it to you. But you have to advocate for yourself and your kids, because for most of our kids, this is it. Education is it. It's key. And when they lose 2 months of school, it's like wiping out a whole year anyway. So it's key.
Yeah, just look at this from Reverend McCluster. Fox 61 News reported that 176,000 Connecticut students did not log on at all for remote learning for 80 days, beginning at the onset of the pandemic. I'm like stunned to think of, and that's one state in this country that we're told the greatest country on earth, greatest economy in the world, all of that stuff we're constantly told. But look at that, just stunning to see that. And Vandana is sharing an article that Samaras wrote. I finally found a school that believes in my sons. Why won't Connecticut fund more schools like it? So there's an article in educationpost.org. Everyone, please find it and read it so that you can understand the issues at stake here. We're also, another question's been brought up. Ashwin says, schools should not force people to pay fees for their children if it's remote. What are your thoughts on that? And some of you have college-age kids. What do you think about colleges charging when their kids are remote, or even private schools, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, like healthcare, right? Education's a business, but we should not be paying fees if our kids are not in school. We can find other ways, because parents need those fees for food. They need it, for their own security. They need it to pay rent. And this country is wealthy enough to take care of people who need the help, and we need to start helping them.
But of course, that's not always happening. Claudine, your thoughts?
Yeah, because my son chose to live at home, we got to avoid a lot of those fees because he's not living on campus. He's not dealing with, room and board issues. But I do know I have several friends who had that issue with in the spring when their kids got sent home, and they said, okay, we're still being charged all this money, and the quality of the classes is not what it should be. It's not what it would have been had I been on campus. And that, I don't care who you are or where you are, you shouldn't have to pay for something that you're not getting. Mm-hmm. And that is a huge struggle.
The schools, of course, on the other hand, will tell you that they have expenses. They're not laying off people. They now have to set up all this extra protection and plexiglass and no-touch bathrooms and no-touch doors. So that is their reasoning that they give for this, and it makes it difficult. So we're already at the end of the hour. We could keep going. There's so many comments.
If I could, I just want to ask Joe a question. Joe, Reverend McCluster told me about you a little bit, and I know you've really turned your life around. And can you talk about did education play a role in that, or what? And now you're a leader in the community. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, I always say education helped me to where I'm at today, for the fact that, I mean, even when I went left and I was involved in like street activity, I always went to school. Like I at my mom's house now, I got like perfect attendance certificates. I never stayed back. I ended up going to college. I went to Briarwood College in Southington, Connecticut. I ended up getting arrested and never graduated. But I even, as far as with my music and stuff like that, I learned, through essays and different things in like English class and creative writing class. So education always played a big role in my life. And, even, during my unfortunate time in prison, I read, I studied, and, it's certain things that being in school from, K to 12 helped me even in my darkest times. And, I think that separated me from a lot of other inmates and a lot of other people in the street that I was around, because even they seen it like, Grits is he's with us, but he's a little bit more enlightened, and I used, my education and my voice, and that's my most powerful asset right now is my voice and my speeches to, do things positive in the community. And ever since I've been doing it, it's been, it's been changing it's been changing the youth in my community, and even changing people, my peers that may have took a little longer to turn around.
That's great. It's very inspiring, and I know that I think you're leading some Black Lives. I think the Reverend said that if you put out a notice that there's going to be a march, 2,000 people show up.
Yeah. I definitely have a strong following, and whether it's social media and different things like that, they try their best to shut me down, and because I definitely could get the crowd going.
Here's what Carl, Reverend McCluster says. We call Joe the reader on his keen sense of literary exploration, news, and hip hop. So I want to keep in touch. I want to learn more. One of the reasons we'd love to play some of your music, Joe, but you know how Facebook and YouTube are like very strong on the copyright, even though.
But I'm registered and everything. So
So that's why even we've done an event with musicians playing their own music, and YouTube will give us a copyright.
Because I'm thinking, this is not my page, so it will tell you that because I'm registered with BMI, so it will tell you that you copyright infringement.
Maureen says, excellent discussion, great panel, thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to shout out to Maureen. Maureen introduced me to Claudine. And so this show took a village, and I'm very grateful for everybody who helped. Stefan, Tammy Ellen, Maureen, so thank you. And Reverend McCluster.
Yes, absolutely. And Rahajan says, having taken classes online, college several years ago, most recently in 2015. I know that online classes require the students does a lot more work than traditional in-person classes. So I agree that the cost of remote courses should be reduced for students and parents. And I'm grateful for all the guests. Thank you for so much for all you do. This is so nice to hear from everybody. Keep those comments coming in. We're going to let everyone get a final thought in, and then we'll say goodnight. And then I will, as we always do, say their names. Let's start with Claudine.
I just wish everybody a good year. I hope things can work out for everyone. I hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy. And I hope we can all do the best we can for our kids this year, our personal kids, our students in our classrooms. And, you know, I hope something changes sometime soon so we can all come back to some sort of normalcy.
Thank you so much. Let's go now to Samaris.
Yeah, I just want to tell everyone the best of luck for the rest of the year, but also find that outlet that because this is an overwhelming time for many of us, and especially those who have kids. So find an outlet, someone that you know you can scream at, and they won't be judgmental, but they will sit and listen to you, as well as figure out how do you find out the different types of resources in whatever state or city that you are in. Because right now, I was listening to the doctor. She said, you know, they have money to take care of us. Well, all these years they told us they didn't have no money. Now all of a sudden, money is coming from every direction. And I encourage people to figure out how do you get that money to get the support that you need to continue to take care of your families and use it wisely to build for your next future.
Thank you. Let's go now to Joe.
I want to first and foremost say, you know, thank you all for, you know, bringing me on this panel. You know, I'm definitely appreciative of being on these type of panels and stuff like that. You know, it shows the respect and the admiration you guys have for me. Yeah, as far as you know, for anybody watching from, you know, my city of Bridgeport, yeah, you know, I pray for everyone, you know, child that's going back to school. You know, as a parent, I know it's scary and risky, but I have two aunts that are teachers and a cousin that's my peer that's a teacher. So, you know, I ask everybody also to be you know, see how this goes. You know, we don't want to like jump down everybody's throat. You know, they have jobs to do, and they're trying to, you know, figure this all out. I don't think anybody living experience what we're going through right now. To the kids is more normal because they're so young, so it's like something. But you know, we definitely never experienced nothing like this. So you know, I want everybody to just be mindful of everything that's going on, and you know, see where we're at maybe in 6-7 months, and see if the conversation is a little better, or see if we don't even have to have this conversation again.
That is very well said. Thank you so much. I want to remind everyone what we have coming up this week, including tomorrow. We have a very important episode where we're going to talk about the post office, because tomorrow Save the Post Office Day. I don't know if everybody knew that, but this is the country we live in now, where the post office is in trouble, for goodness sake. I mean, it's hard to imagine that this is a problem, but here we are fighting to save the post office. This is the episode we're having tomorrow. And Professor Richard John and Professor Manisha Sinha are both experts on U.S. history, and they want to tell us. This is 9 a.m. tomorrow, folks, so very early, less than 12 hours, 10 hours from now. We want you all to join us. You know what they told us that I learned is that during slavery, slave owners would break into the post office and burn abolitionist literature. So these people who are upset at the post office, that is the legacy. Those are the people they are, you know, descendants of. And that is what is so upsetting about what is happening with the post office and everything that is going on there. So we're talking about that tomorrow. Let's let our guests go. Thank you so much, I don't think we give Dr. Janet a chance to give us her final thoughts.
Oh, I'll be brief. I was honored to be on the panel. Thank you so much. And as you led with the positivity, that's what we need. You know, this is not just a new normal, which I don't think it is at all, but a new humanity. And I think every single guest, based on how they were making it through, you know, with grit and determination, looking forward, spreading information is really indicative of what we all have to do together, because together we can make it through this. And where there's darkness, there's light. There's always hope. We just have to keep pushing through. So thank you.
I love hearing that. Thank you. And Kathleen says, I hope everyone can make the best of the coming year and help each other. And Rahajan says, blessings to everyone. I know Dr. Reverend Carl McCluster is sending us his support, love, and blessings also. And Stefan says, what an incredibly insightful show. And I wish everyone all the best for a decent school year. We can get through this. And Dr. Jane Elizabeth Taylor, always a shining star. Love you. Maybe that's on Facebook, that's your full name. So maybe that's what's... was that? Did people remark on that name growing up, Elizabeth Taylor?
That was my grandmother's name. Yep, Elizabeth Taylor. So
okay, all right. So there you go. You got to celebrate your grandmother and a name that was recognized as well. A Facebook user says, "Enjoyed this great panel. May the eventual new normal be far, far better for all than the old normal." And that's a great line from Rahajan as well. Thank you very much. Let's say goodbye to Samaris. Thank you, Samaris, and thank you, Joe. And thank you, Claudine. And thank you, Janet. We really appreciate it. Rose, another great episode you put together. You are a booker extraordinaire, producer extraordinaire with our colleague Vandana. You make it possible for us to do 164 episodes in a row. How do you feel now that it's done?
Not
tomorrow, but what is
a little relief. A lot of players, you know, a lot of players. I was on the phone a lot.
And people need to know that these things don't just happen, right? Like these are Vandana and Rose work very hard to bring you these amazing episodes every single day. I mean, not one weekend, not a day off since the pandemic started. And to do all of this during the pandemic is an enormous tribute to both Vandana and Rose and all of you who have supported us, whether you're a sponsor or you're just a viewer. Just tag a friend right now. You know someone who would benefit from this conversation we just had. Just share it so that they can learn. And we're very, very grateful. Rahajan says Elizabeth means God's oath or God's promise. So it's an awesome name. Also the middle name of my goddaughter, though spelled Elizabeth. And Carl McCluster, Reverend says 200 in sight. Keep going. Okay, so Reverend, we're going to have you back for episode number 200. Rose, you want to book him now. We're going to find out what that date is. And 30-something days from now, we're going to have the Reverend join us. Thank you, Rose, for making all of this happen.
Thank you. I'm glad to shed light on the differences, you know, in different communities. And, you know, I guess one worry I have is that for kids who are either could have learning disabilities or special, you know, needs, and then just kids who may not be in the best school district where they're hearing from the school really what's going on. Like, you know, I think in the town, one town, I know that they had a Zoom meeting with all the Board of Ed people, and people could hear what's going on. You know,
but I've also heard of schools where the Zoom call broke, and then the people couldn't get through, and like I mean. It's so difficult to understand all of this, and so tough. And Reverend says, "My privilege, amen." So that means we've got at least one guest for the 200th episode, Rose.
Yeah.
So all right. I just want to talk through what's coming up this weekend. Everyone always says to me, you know, you've got your weekends. I hope you have a good weekend. Well, around here we have 5 shows on the weekend. So we start at 9 a.m. with the show about the post office on Saturday. And then, so please join us 9 a.m. to talk about saving the post office. Then from noon to 2 every Saturday, I host a show on the radio on WBAI, it's called Coping with COVID-19, a helpful, hopeful call-in show. And people call in on WBAI 99.5 FM. And you can listen anywhere in the world, WBAI.org. Please check us out, noon to 2 Eastern every single week. And I learn a lot. And we have 2 awesome guests on that show. And that's just Saturday. And then on Sunday morning, we start with the New York Times read along, where we read the New York Times out loud like crazy people. We've been doing it for 5 years. Our guest is John Byrne, the editor-in-chief of Poets and Quants, and the former executive editor of Business Week and the former editor-in-chief of Fast Company. And that's at 8:30 to 10:15. And then at 11, Rose helps produce this incredible show called She's on Call. Saturdays. I'm getting it all wrong. Sundays at 11. On Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, you will meet two amazing surgeons, Dr. Sujana Chandrasekhar and Marina Kurian, and they will have two guests, a dermatologist, Dr. Doris Day, and a pathologist, Dr. Valerie Fitzhugh. So please join us on Sunday. Please check out the show. Right now, you can go in and watch last week's show. They have 11 shows that have all been amazing, and Rose does a great job on that too. And then on Sunday night, we have Positivity Night, trying to be positive while everything is rotten. And we have Judith Matloff, who teaches crisis reporting at Columbia Journalism School. She's the author of multiple books, including the most unusual title book I've heard in a long time, How to Drag a Body and Other Safety Tips You Hope You Never Need, Survival Tricks for Hacking Hurricanes and Hazards Life Might Throw at You. So I don't know how positive we can be with all of that, but I know we're going to be, because Judith's an amazing journalist and dear friend. And so I can't wait to have her on the show, which will be on Sunday at 9 p.m. And that is our weekend where we're working both days, but we're doing this so that we can bring you great shows and also tell great stories. Now, some of you have wondered about this book behind me. People send me books, as you can see, during the pandemic. People are busy. This book is called Fauja Singh Keeps Going, the true story of the oldest person to ever run a marathon, by Simranjeet Singh and illustrated by Baljinder Kaur. And there's a children's book. It just came out, and we're going to do an episode around this. And Simran is an amazing follow on Twitter. He's SikhProf, SikhProf, and he does a lot of amazing work. And at the finish line, our reward is in every step that carried us there. So we're going to do an episode on this. And that's Simranjeet Singh. And that's Baljinder Kaur, the illustrator. And Simran is at SikhProf. So join us for that when we schedule that in the days ahead. Rose, thank you very much. Anything you want to add before we let you go?
No, I guess just everyone keep your sanity, try to laugh sometimes, and reach out to support, like your other parents. And so when, if there's something really bothering you about what's going on, sometimes it's better, call a friend, don't, have a support network of people. And like, I think Samara said, have some kind of other thing that you're doing or to keep your mind going, as stress-free as possible.
as stress-free as possible. All right, Rose, I'll let you go. Also, thank you so much, Rose. And Rose is our awesome producer who helps make the show, along with Vandana Menon, who's been tweeting and posting. And big thanks to Carla Baranakis for her live tweet as well. Before we go, we asked what can we do to help support the African-American community? And I was told by Professor Kimberly Crenshaw, say their names. And so that's what we're going to do. And here you see a cover story in Time magazine on the left, a moving painting by Titus Kaffer of a young mother with a child in her arms, and the child is snatched away. You see the blue glove of the pandemic. And on the right is Larcinia Floyd with her very young George Floyd in her arms. She would die 2 years almost to the day that he would be murdered live on TV in Minneapolis. They're now buried together in Houston. And now we will say their names. And please join me as we say them. Trayvon Martin, Yvette Smith, Eric Garner, Michael Brown, Laquan McDonald, Tanisha Anderson, Akai Gurley, Tamir Rice, Jerame Reed, Natasha McKenna, Eric Harris, Walter Scott, Freddie Gray, William Chapman, Sandra Bland, Darius Stewart, Samuel DuBose, Janet Wilson, Kaylin Rockmore, Alton Sterling, Philando Castile, Joseph Mann, Terrence Crutcher. I'm going to pause there for a second and ask you, how many of these names do you know? Some, sure, are household names, but so many others aren't. And this isn't even the full list. Chad Robertson, Jordan Edwards, Aaron Bailey, Stefan Clark, Danny Ray Thomas, Antoine Rose, Botham Jean, Tatiana Jefferson, Michael Dean, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, and George Floyd. And the names go on and on and on, all the way back to Emmett Till and so many other people murdered in this country. We want to thank you all for joining us. Thank you for supporting us. We don't always read that list. We read sometimes the list from the She Say Her Name report, which is just name of women who have died in police violence. And a reminder, every time I do this, someone will ask me, why do you not care about other kinds of violence? We do. We care about all kinds of violence. No one should die, but no one should die at the hands of police officers. I'm the son-in-law of a police officer, a police chief in India. And I can tell you that we all believe that the police are not judge, jury, and executioner. There are other people in the criminal justice system who have those roles, and so police are held to a higher standard. Thank you so much for being here. Big thanks to our sponsors. Once again, nunbelievable.com, divinely delicious cookies on a mission. Each handcrafted cookie provides a meal to those in need. One cookie equals one meal. Try nunbelievable.com, 20% off with the code Sree, S-R-E-E. And also a big thanks to our friends at Muckrack Academy, Fundamentals of Social Media, a free certification course, mrac.co/social, mrac.co/social. It's about 2 hours of work. You can do it in 2 hours, 2 days, 2 months. And 4,000 people have taken that class, and so should you. You'll learn a lot. I did putting that together. And big thanks to our friends at She's On Call. And also, we've got promotional support provided by check out hotstar.com/US, everybody, and you can support us by signing up. And we also want to just read a couple of last comments that have come through. Rajan says, Simranjit Singh is associated with Union Theological Seminary in New York City. Great speaker he is. And Rajan says, thinking of you always. Thank you always for saying their names. May their memories be an inspiration for all of us to do better. So thank you so much, Rajan. Really appreciate it. And so grateful to everybody. We're going to say goodbye now. See you. Find our archives, please, at youtube.com/Sreenet. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us. We love doing the show, and we love all of you. And thank you for your support, your interest, and so much more. Bye, everybody.